Hey everybody, and welcome to Gaming Banter with David and Ryan. We're joined again this week by Sunday. Yay! And so we're going to be talking about a fun topic. Not that they're not always fun, because they are. But basically, the concept is Deus Ex Machina and video games. So the thought of there's no way that I should be able to win this fight versus this other player. But I do because of certain aspects that are in the game. So, for example, in Call of Duty, whenever I start off and I'm playing against these guys that are a lot better than I am, the idea that attaching a noob tube to my gun and firing it over there and then boom, I kill them. And maybe, once out of every 20, 30%, 20, 30% of the time I beat that person, and if that's important. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, but I don't know, what do you think, David?
Yeah, it is interesting. Is it the game designers not designing well? Or is it an imbalance? Is it kind of devaluing all the other tactics and techniques by putting in these overpowered items? Or is there maybe more thought behind that? Is there a function and a good thing to these overpowered items?
What about you, Sunday?
I think that initially it can be a positive thing, just as we were kind of discussing earlier about it, where you're just getting into a game and you feel like you have some skill or ability even though you don't have any, and it makes you sort of want to keep playing because you feel you're so much more powerful than your friends who've been playing for months. And so I guess an inflated sense of ego can be really good, but the hope is that they'll continue developing their skills and not rely on it so heavily, or just like button spam it as it happens in some games. So yeah, it can be good in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, and I played Call of Duty, and I played a lot of these different games that have the kind of the Deus Ex Machina mechanic inside of it, and I get the point. But at the same time, it's like whenever I'm playing hardcore search and destroy in Call of Duty, and then somebody just launches a noob tube and it kills me right off the start, and I have to wait 3 minutes. I think it almost can take away from the game because you're putting in these mechanics that are supposed to help new players feel like they can win, but it almost comes to the point where you need to ban some of these things in order to make it so the game's played for skill. Because I'm not playing a game to just auto-win every time. That gets boring, and then I'm done. I want, my skill to be taken into account. So I don't know how. How do you feel about that aspect of it, David?
Well, that's we were discussing kind of earlier the banning certain items in Super Smash Brothers and stuff like that. Like at some point, it does maybe decrease the enjoyment value, and I think it is a very delicate balance between giving people kind of training wheels in a way, giving them the ability to compete in some level with people with much more experience, because that is what you deal with a lot of times in matchmaking and online games and stuff. Is you're going to get people from all different levels and skill sets, and allowing everyone to enjoy it and allowing your game to be something accessible to people who have never played that genre or just haven't played your particular game before, but at the same time give it growth and potential for people who are pro, and allow those people to kind of exist in the same world. And yeah, I think it does come down to, like, I know I played games where I know what this guy's going to do. He's going to lob grenades at me or whatever, and so you just backstep. You go behind a wall or something, and it blocks the blast, and you come out and you shoot him in the head, and you're like, that's not even an issue. But then people on your team are falling to it, like getting blown up left and right, and but it is, you have to figure out a way around it, like, unless it's just every once in a while you come up in a situation and you even look it up online and everyone's like, this is just a ridiculous, this whole game really comes down to one move because it's the only move really worth your effort. Everything else is just, tricks. It's just unnecessarily hard trying to do the same thing. And that is a problem. At that point you are, ruining your game. You're making most of the content that you developed in your game unnecessary for people to use, and that's a waste of time from a developer standpoint. But yeah, I definitely see the benefits to it, making things accessible, making it enjoyable, giving you a sense of accomplishment when you might die. Like, I know I've played plenty of games because there's a lot of I'm a terrible first-person shooter, but I've played games where there's one other person that we're playing against when we do LAN parties and stuff, and I'm like, if I kill him once, it's a victory. As long as I can get one kill in this game, I'll feel like I did good. All these guys are good. I know that some of them have won competitions and stuff. If I can just kill one of them, even if it's someone else kills 90% of their life and I get the last shot off, then I did well. Like sometimes you have to kind of set those goals for yourself as you're getting in there, and then you're like, as long as I get more kills than deaths, then I feel good about myself. And then you're like, as long as I can get 6 headshots in a row, then I feel good. Like you keep kind of upping your own personal, goals as your team also helps you kind of move towards overall victory. Yeah.
So, I mean, do we think that that's a good idea, though, to have game developers balancing games based on their weakest players instead of, having kind of a more balanced game overall? Because, for example, if I'm playing StarCraft 2 or StarCraft Original, and I'm balancing towards the weakest player who doesn't have the APM and some of those factors, but I haven't designed a complex game to kind of give the really good players additional things, is that beneficial towards my game? And I personally don't think so. I think there needs to be a complicated skill level to where people can do better than other players and feel like they're actually going to accomplish something and not get Noob Tubes. I don't know. What do you think, Sunday?
I think that there's like a difference between kind of random elements and some lucky stuff, and then like a god item. And I don't know, I guess depending on the game, designers have to take into account that people will be matched up differently, and that like certain things will annoy the crap out of experienced players. I think like a good system would be a reward for a move that's complicated and sort of developing that, but it needs to be gradual enough to where people want to keep improving versus like, I can't do this weird button combination, like I won't do this. I refuse and I quit forever. Kind of a good example maybe in Super Smash Brothers when they started getting into wave dashing for competitive playing, and it's not an extremely difficult move to do, but it increases the speed of gameplay so much that people were finding like new ways to be competitive with it. And I think that would be a perfect example. Like it won't take you a year to master it, but once you do master it, you're competing at a much, much higher level than people who are just like button smashing and getting like that magical hammer that's really obnoxious.
So what's wave dancing? Because I'm not a huge Super Smash Brothers person.
Alright, so wave dashing is basically between moves there's a small pause, and gamers on their own found out a way to eliminate that pause by doing a certain combination of forward moving and like hitting another button, which I forget one it is. So instead of having to be like move, pause, like hit a hammer, wait, hit a hammer, wait, they can cancel out that pause and keep going really fast. So speed goes up and competition is like at a higher level, but it's still not enough to where someone who just learned it would have a hard time. It's just something that kind of improves the game. I don't even think the game makers made it that way, actually. I think it was an accident, but it turned out really good for everybody. But yeah, I think god items should be just generally eliminated. I hate them so much, like so much. I don't mind a little random luck, but I just, if there's a unlimited this or that hammer and smash, or you're just like wipe everybody out. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what turned me off to Halo 3 eventually was, and they changed this with Halo 4, so that was something I really enjoyed. But Halo before that was just you started off 4-on-4 and you'd rush the power weapons. It's like, okay, I got to get to the rocket launcher. Okay, I got to get to the sniper rifle. Okay, I got to get to this. And like, if you got your best player to that item, it was free kills until you ran out of ammo on that if you did it right. And so it's just like it becomes less about, well, I'm at the same skill level of that person, or I'm at the same place as that person, and more about, well, I got the rocket launcher, so you're gonna die until I run out of ammo, and then we wait until it spawns again. So, yeah, I hate Halo 4. They improved that though. In Halo 4, it's like you spawn with your weapons, and yeah, there are weapons you can go and get, but it's not like, oh, there's always gonna be rockets, and they're always gonna be down there. So.
Did they randomize where things were gonna be 2 and 4?
To some extent, but not really.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of because we were working on You Might Get Owned by the series today, and like it is. I mean, like I feel like we saw some of the guys do moves, like that one guy in Call of Duty where he was like killing people with the blowtorch or whatever. Like I feel like he could take out a guy with a rocket launcher. Like the skill, like if you don't give up, if you don't say, well, it's not fair, I'll just lose to this because it's just better, and you look for things like ways to trick the system because of like animation, breaking animation pauses and stuff like that. Like you can go in and kill people with the weapon that's barely even supposed to be a weapon, who have the best weapon, just by figuring out techniques and remembering that in the end, when you play a game against another person, you're playing the game, but you're also playing the other person, and you can trick people. Like when we saw Matt, we haven't released that one yet, but Matt, our old roommate, playing Ultimate, and he's just like, he's unstoppable, and he's talked to me about it. Like he's a lot of it's guessing. He has to know where the person's going to go, but he's played so many games and he's so familiar with patterns and which ways people tend to want to go. He's like 4 steps ahead because he's playing the other person and the game and the animations and which weapons and stuff. So like he's got like 90 things he's calculating versus some people are like, how can I launch this grenade the right way? And they launch it, but he's not going to be where it lands because he sees them with a grenade launcher. He knows what's going to happen. So like if you believe in yourself and you put the effort in, you can like surpass. Yeah, which is why Asians do it so much better than we do. In America, we're like, it's not fair. Someone should make this easier for me.
Oh God.
Racism.
Yeah.
No, that's not racism.
Oh no.
It's like racism against yourself.
Every time I watch Avatar, not the Airbender, but the Blue Cat movie.
The blue one.
The blue cat people. I'm always like, oh, Earthlings are terrible. I wish they'd all die. Blue cat people are the best.
Yeah.
That's why I'm red right now.
Oh man. So benefits versus like benefits of this system versus not having the system. So, for example, I'll give a couple examples of like games I really like that are not very friendly to new users. So Dark Age of Camelot, which is a game that I played for years and played a lot. It's very PvP oriented. It has a PvP ranking system to where you gain new abilities, and then if you know how to use those abilities, like it just makes it even worse. You play against a new player who's coming in, and he doesn't have any of those abilities, and he doesn't have a template, and he doesn't have all these different things because it's such a high skill level game, and there's not like a gradual. It's just you hit 50 and now you're cap level, and if you don't have your stuff, you're gonna get destroyed. And so and that's a game where it was 8-player groups, and we would go out and we would kill 150 people, and it was no problem. Like, oh yeah, you guys suck. We just killed 150 of you, and I have videos to prove it. But the point is like, is that conducive to gaming, or is it, does that make people quit seeing something like that?
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I'd be less likely to pick up a game if sort of in that first hour of play I don't feel like I'm getting a grasp of it, or I'm not, feeling like, oh, I could be amazing at this thing. I don't know, games I really enjoy, even Red Dead, you first have to get used to those kind of controls. They're not particularly difficult, but once you master them, even though it's not difficult, you feel as if you're amazing. And then in the case of Worms, which I was talking about, Worms Armageddon, they have situations where, you can be amazing at that game, but there's still these off chances that, just starting the game, you can get a great hit with a rocket launcher and have that confidence and be excited to keep playing it. So I think it just perhaps is game dependent for me, just because I know when I go into a fighting game, if people have been playing that fighting game forever, I'm gonna get my butt kicked or I'm just gonna button spam until they ask me to stop playing. And then, but if I'm playing an adventure game or something, I hope that it has a good enough progression, starting with you are very dumb, getting up to good job, everything is dead now. So game dependent.
Or in the case of Worms, you just get a super banana bomb or a holy hand grenade, and it's like, you just kill everybody.
Yeah, I do love Worms though. I mean, even still, that you have enough players sort of on the board to where you won't kill everybody. You may get someone really good, but you're not gonna get everybody unless it's weird and something happened.
Yeah, I think matchmaking plays a lot into it. So if it is open matchmaking, everybody gets matched randomly with other people, and it doesn't matter your level or your ELO or whatever they're gauging it by. If there's nothing like that, then you do need to give people the ability to balance themselves. Or if you do have a way that level 30s will never fight a level 1 and so on, then you can take those weapons out, take those miracle weapons out, and let it be just skill to skill to skill. And time something does become a kind of a miracle ability, that is something people can abuse, and then it kind of wrecks it because everyone gets drawn to this one avenue and ignores all the other stuff they've spent time developing. So yeah, matchmaking.
That reminds me of like back in the day playing Quake or like playing Wolfenstein. Like playing those two games in particular, like you just joined a server. And so when you joined a server, there could be really good players on there, or there could be really bad players. And so it became this game of you leave a server because you know that player is better than you. So you go and find a server where everybody's not better than you, and then you just destroy them for like forever, and then move on. So
yeah.
But, is Team Fortress that way? Do you just join up servers? I can't remember. I felt like we used to have to like jump servers because we were like, well, that wasn't fun. Everyone was just dying left and right. We were killing them. They weren't killing us, or maybe the other way around. I can't remember.
Yeah.
In WoW, they were all playing on the same server with huge gaps in levels. And the thing that they did was just make the smaller level areas really unappealing, I guess. So if there was a level, whatever the cap was at the time, kind of camping out and wiping people out, it wasn't that fun. Like, you just sit there wiping out. It's a one-hit thing, and there's no items to get. There's no joy. So you just feel like, even I would do this a bit. You get nihilistic and kill everybody, and then you're just sort of like, okay, I'll babysit this people for 10 minutes now. They hate me. And, like, you high-five yourself and move on.
And then you make people so mad that they're like, I'm going to report you because you're killing all the lobies and you're not really playing the game and blah, 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 blah. It's like, I'm playing as intended. I'm just here in this level 5 area. Just for fun. Yeah, just with there'd be real no motivation too. And like, you could do crazy things and WoW, like jump off a cliff a million times and see yourself fall, but it's not. After a while, it's just like this does nothing for me. I remember, and this is off topic, but it's probably one of my favorite memories. I convinced this guy that was a friend of mine to duel me, and I was a priest. And this was, original WoW, so like no, expansions or anything. So he comes in, and then I basically ran up there and like mind controlled him, and then jumped him off a cliff. And I don't know.
Yeah, satisfying. I tell you what. All the best kills have been in WoW. Yeah. In the battlefield areas, those are the best. I just camp out on a tower and just, be the boss that I was born to be.
Oh man.
It feels good to feel powerful.
I know.
So the last thing that we kind of had as a question was the importance of balance. So the big thing with that, kind of along with the Deus Ex Machina abilities in games, talking about like StarCraft Original with Zerg rushing. So it got to be a point where everybody was Zerg rushing, then they changed it, and then people stopped playing. Because what's the point of playing a game if I can't just win in 30 seconds? So what, in your all's opinions, do you believe is kind of an appropriate place to get to with balancing a game to make sure that it stays fun for everybody? Sunday.
I mean, if it's a system where it's a system of matching, just improving that, I think, would be a big help. I still feel as if getting matched up with someone who's just insane is a possibility, or getting matched up with someone who's so awful that it doesn't feel fun at all to play. I think sometimes those systems get a little crazy too. You have ranking type systems and all that, and I don't feel like every game has a grasp on the most perfect way to match up players. Yeah, or just ever. Maybe there's no good way. It's like a test, like the SATs. They can't really tell you how intelligent you are. They can only tell you like how many formulas you've memorized and how much you've studied those kind of questions. So it's hard to say. I'm trying to think of a game where I felt extremely annoyed by either the ease of play or lack of, or like a lack of a great curve where you start out too hard. And the one I can really think of is the first Resident Evil game, where I was just trying to learn how to play that game and I was screaming. Like everyone could hear me 2 states over, just because the system of side scrolling was so annoying. So less of that probably. But yeah.
It's interesting. It reminds me of actually the custom map in StarCraft 2 that we were playing, Cobalt Tribes, for a while. And there is kind of a benefit. I kind of do like getting match made against people who are just like ridiculously better at that given thing than me. Because like without even looking up tutorials, after losing 3 or 4 times, I knew a lot of strategies and stuff. Like I was like, wow, so yeah, getting pets or whatever is like that's pretty legit, and making sure you have like the X different spells or building traps is like. You're going to need to do that, and I wouldn't have known otherwise. If I'm playing against equals, we could both be doing really sloppy strategies and not learn anything from each other, and take 40 minutes to win a game. We could take 20 minutes winning because we're just mulling about, not doing stuff that, like I learned like that game was like, you got to have all your stuff together in the first 10 minutes or you're dead via playing against good players. But then on the topic of like balance and stuff, like I know in Legends and League of Legends, they do it a lot where there'll be like a character and like it's a #1 jungle character. Like do that all the time. It's really well toned for that, or #1 mid. And you're just seeing them all the time. People are banning them all the time, and so then they nerf it, and you go from being like, yeah, I like this character, I like the way it feels, I feel really good about that, and they don't nerf it back to equal with the rest of them a lot of times. A lot of times they will go a little overboard, and I like Elements, the guy who used to play, I think he coaches now, but he's got a tier list that tells you really what characters are worth playing and which ones just aren't very viable. And you'll sometimes see something drop from like #1 jungle character, or #1 mid lane or something, to like not even on the top 3 tier, like not even viable anymore. Like you would only play it to like handicap yourself for some reason, and so that's kind of annoying because then you have something you put a lot of time in learning all the maneuvers and what time to trigger stuff, and it was a little too powerful, so they knock a few numbers around, but they don't balance it back to normal. They balance it below normal, and all the time you invested into that is no longer functional. It's like if they took basketball and they said, okay, instead of shooting it into a hoop, now you're going to try to roll a disc into a tiny little thing on the floor. All the basketball players would be like, well, I put a lot of effort and practice into exercising these techniques. What do you mean you're changing how basketball works? And so it's a similar thing where it's like, well, at this point, I can't play this character. I just have to learn a new character, and everything I learned to make this character work is a waste of time until they refix it and they say, oh, now no one's playing that character, so we need to give it some abilities again.
And I think with that, I don't believe in nerfing. Like I think that nerfing is kind of the wrong way to go about things. And I think the better way to handle it is to add abilities that buff the other classes to where they're more in line with being competitive with that original class. So for the basketball analogy, like you just said, making it so that everybody has to shoot from further away for a 3-point shot, versus changing it so that you're rolling a disc into a whatever.
Changing everything. I do have a little bit of a conspiracy theory when it comes to Legends, though, because generally when they release a new character, it's always a little bit more powerful than you'd think it should be, and so people latch onto it. A lot of people buy it. You see it in lanes a lot, and then they're like, oh, we were a little wrong. It was a new character, so we had to rebalance it. And you're like, well, didn't you beta any of this? And they're like, oh, now it's kind of not even worth having anymore for a few weeks or a few months. But the new character is really good, and it makes people always want like the newest thing coming out. That's my theory sometimes. But sometimes they release a new character that nobody plays after a while because it's pretty crappy. But I can think of several that were all the time played, kind of a little overpowered, that a couple weeks in, close to the next character release, gets like some nerfs. So like a new patch will release a new character and nerfing that one that you liked. And you're like, oh. That might not.
What about you, Sunday? Nerf or buff?
I don't think nerfing's fair. It reminds me a lot of when I would play with my sister, or when I'm just starting to play, Super Smash or something, and sort of honing in on my skills. If there's a way to just, it's equivalent of button mashing to me. So if there's a way to like be OP and without any skill whatsoever, then that's a big problem. I do kind of agree with David that I think that sometimes they design a character to get everyone all excited and then take it all away with a good patch. It really annoys me. But to me, I don't have a lot of fun if I feel like I'm not accomplishing something. If it's too easy, or if I know that something's just awesome, I don't want to, be that kind of way. Just not enjoyable to when I get something done. It's like, oh, it's because this character is amazingly tough and nothing can touch him, and therefore my victory is only a half victory. I do like to feel, and I think most probably gamers like to feel that they're improving their skills rather than like being babied. But again, there's a curve to that it is to be considered. You don't want to start out with like, no man can play this. We have to do like 20 moves on your thing for it to walk. I don't know. Yeah.
So I guess to sum up, Deus Ex Machina in video games, do we think it's a good thing or a bad thing? David?
I would say it's a delicate thing. It's definitely something that can be abused both ways. I can think of bad examples and good examples. And yeah, it's one of those gray maybe areas in a way. Like, it's hard to say never do it, but just fully think out the consequences before you devalue all the other things you created by making one thing better. Maybe that's me.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to a degree. A god item is a bad thing always, I believe. Maybe I'll just take that stance. Like, I don't want any god items in any game. But a little bit of chance or luck in a game can feel nice, especially a little boost when you've been working so hard to game. And then also maybe just the consideration that those things can be taken away as you progress, or as you guys, like, people get into a different level of skill or getting matched up at a higher level, taking that away instead of just leaving it for the beginners who need a little boost of happiness, a ray of sunshine. So yeah. That's all I have to say.
I think that's a good way to put it. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm more leaning towards I hate God mode anything, and I hate whenever it's not completely skill based. I want that when I'm starting out, but I want to have the desire to keep on growing as a player, not to be forced into this. Well, I got to use Noob Tubes because everybody in Call of Duty uses Noob Tubes, or I got to Zerg Rush because everybody in StarCraft is Zerg Rushing. But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us this week on Gaming Banter with David and Ryan, and we'll see you guys next week on Monday or Tuesday. So.
Oh, we didn't do sound effects. I want to do sound effects.
No!
Next time in front of a live studio audience.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and feel free to take a look at our website, www.ultimategamedb.com, and subscribe to our channel. We would love to see you there.
And definitely also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you like us or follow us, you'll be able to see when we're posting new shows, and also a lot of articles. The Ultimate Game Database posts a lot of stuff on what games are coming out that week, how the consoles are doing on the console wars, a lot of fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so subscribe, like us, tweet us, and we will see you next week. Bye!